Well, let's use mouse Y to understand if we should move the player, the bucket for nodes, in the upper or down corridor. I'm going to check its value. So I'm going to compare mouseY with something, because from some value of mouseY, the mouse is in the bottom corner, in the bottom corridor, and we should move the player in the bottom corridor too. It was a good thing to think about, which is this Y line, after which we are in the bottom corridor. Well, if we want both corridors to be equal in size, they should both be half of the Y size or the height of the field, and the height of the field is 600 pixels, so each of the corridors will be 300 pixels. The bottom corridor will be from the bottom 600 pixels up to the 300 pixel, and the top corridor will be from the top, from the 0th pixel to the 300th pixel. So the line is at Y300, and if mouseY is bigger than 300, then apparently I should go to the bottom corridor. Of course, this console lock will not move the player in the bottom corridor. Let's see what actually is going on now. You can see that my player is still chasing the mouse. But sometimes in the exact moment bottom corridor is printed, so I can change this line with something that will really move the player in the bottom corridor, and such a line is mouseY equals, and let's think of a good number, of a good value for Y, such that if we put the player there, he will cover the whole bottom corridor. Well, if the player is with its initial size of 30, of course he cannot cover the whole corridor. We might change this, and we already understood that 300 is the height of each corridor, and now we can see that I did something totally wrong. Yeah, I've tried to make the player bigger, and I also tried to write if here, but I didn't finish the line of code, the line 8. It starts with placing the player somewhere, and now that we know that the size of the player is 300, we can now choose a good value for mouseY, such that the bottom part of the player reaches the bottom part of the playing field, and the top part of the player reaches the top part of the corridor, of the bottom corridor, which is exactly in the middle of the playing field. Well, the middle of the playing field is at Y300, so I can now try this line, and I can see that if the mouse is in the bottom part of the field, it's exactly at 300. But you can see some strange behavior from the bucket of nodes. It would be even stranger if this if was written upper in the update. If it was written before the two default lines from code.zip, we may see that now it's even stranger. We can push the bucket a little bit down, and it's a strange behavior. We want to fix this, and we totally don't want to move the bucket by X. We also don't need this line. I deleted them both, and let's see what is going on. Well, I can move my mouse and the player is not moving. It stays in the upper corridor while my mouse is in the upper corridor, which is great. Now I will move my mouse down, and the player immediately moved down too, which is great. Sadly, I can't move the player back. This is an easy task for you now. Now that you have this if, I think you could easily make the opposite if, and the player would be able to go back to the upper corridor. When you're ready with this, you have other easy task. Make nodes coming from the right. If you haven't done this yet, I will remind you that we had a similar problem and similar behavior from the enemies in Jetpack Joyride, so you can take the code moving enemies each update a little bit to the left, and even you can also copy the code teleporting those enemies back to the right. Of course, you will have to execute the code now for variables called, for example, node X and node Y. Good luck!